Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Robot Damashii or Robot Spirits Side MS Banshee number 117. Looks really nice. The packaging is great. So if you're going to keep it in packaging, there's a nice window. Everything looks good. Has the nice side, the profile image right there. And then of course we have some stuff on the back, some display options, but we don't want to spend too much time looking at the package because the whole point of a review is to look at the figure. So let's do that. Now I'm going to warn you right now, you may want to grab a drink. This is going to be a lengthy review. This figure comes with a lot of stuff. There's a lot to talk about. So like I said, grab a drink, get a comfy seat, and enjoy. So let's take him out first and just look at what he is as he comes out of the package. Now I did take him out once already before, so I've swapped out the V-fin with the flexible version. So this is a softer version. I thought for the review it would be beneficial so I don't accidentally break it off, but there is also a more rigid version which would break more easily. You can't really tell the difference by looking at them though. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's look at the details of this guy. He has a really great paint job. They did a great job in the molding of the dark blue plastic. The navy blue looks great. It's very color accurate. And then we have the gold, which is done phenomenally well. It looks really good. It's a really nice metallic, very vibrant gold color. And then there are these gunmetal gray parts throughout. You can see it here in the torso. The elbow joints are gray. The hands, they're not actually all one color. The like the hand pads, I don't know what you would call that. The tops of the hands have the navy blue, then the fingers are all that gray color. The wrist part has the gray color on there. Are there any gray parts in this? I don't remember. Let's pop that out. Doesn't look like there's any gray in there, but there is gray throughout, so that's nice. There's in the knee there, little bits here on the lower leg, that part there. So it's a nice composition for the figure. Now, one of the things that the unicorns always seem to me, the unicorn Gundam, the unicorn series Gundams always kind of seemed really bottom heavy. They had humongous legs and rather small upper bodies, but we're gonna make up for that in a little bit, so don't worry about that too much. Let's look at the head itself. It has a really nice design. I love the way this guy looks with the nice red eyes, the gold underneath them, and then the more traditional looking face. Aside from the humongous V-fin, it's actually a pretty traditional kind of design, so I like that a lot. As far as articulation goes, he's got the standard double ball peg. So there's a double ball peg at the top of the neck, and then at least a single ball peg, maybe a double ball peg underneath the neck. So really you won't have any problem posing the head however you want. If you want to have him look up, just bring it forward. He can look up. If you want to have him look down, he can look down pretty well no matter how you do it. So that's pretty nice. And like I said, these are soft, so if you're worried about posing him a lot, that you might break him, you can just pop this off and swap him out. You can see that there is the little bit of red up there. There's also red on the back of the head. So they have gotten a lot of detail in this figure. So let's get that back in there. If I can do it on camera. Come on. Oh, I was doing it at the wrong angle. So there we go. So the head's got really nice articulation. The shoulders, it doesn't actually have the butterfly joint that I was expecting. It has a ball peg that sticks out kind of far. You can pull it in and push it, pull it out and push it in a little bit. See that socket, how that moves? So that gives you a little extra mobility. And then the ball peg is actually kind of long, which doesn't look the best unless you hide it with the shoulder armor, which is okay by me because that allows for a little bit better range of motion. You can bring the arm across the chest just a little bit more, better posability all around. And once you get him posed, you won't notice that too much because you can usually hide that with the shoulder armor, just like that. So that's pretty nice. And then the shoulder armor is hinged up here, so that can swivel on its own or pivot on its own there. And then the shoulder, of course, has the pivot inside. So that works very nicely. I have a bicep swivel right there. That would be a darker gray piece, and then the blue there, so a little bit more contrast. Double jointed elbow. Get really good range of motion out of that. The hands have the standard ball socket there for the interchangeability, and is the peg movable. the peg does have some play in it, so a little bit of range of motion in the hands, not a whole lot, but more than enough, so no problems there. And then, as you might have noticed earlier, I was able to pull this piece off, and that is because you can connect the beam saber to that, and he can have the beam sabers come forward. I'll show you that once we get to the accessory portion of the review. The torso articulation, he can lean back, so his ab crunch leans him back a little bit, leans him forward a pretty good amount. So he's one of the better designs in terms of the ab crunch. They still don't have a huge range of motion in this guy, but it's pretty significant compared to some of the other figures, so that's pretty nice. And then he does have some mobility at the waist. It does swivel and it can lean, but it is pretty stiff, so probably use some caution when you're handling that. As far as the skirts go, each of the front flaps are individually articulated on a ball peg. Hopefully you can see that in there, so they can pretty much get out of the way any way you need them to. For the hips, which we'll get to in a second, the side skirts, again, it's pretty limited, not as bad as some of the others we've seen, but it could still, I think, have a little bit better range of motion just to get out of the way. However, I don't think I'm going to be putting my Gundam in the splits position, so I think this will probably suffice, no problem at all. And then the back is just like the front. This is all one solid piece. He doesn't transform at all unless I point it out, by the way. So that is, if you want the transformation, I think you're going to have to go with the master grade kit. But as for the robot Damashii, they do not transform unless it's just a little thing that I'm going to point out. So the back skirt is just like the front skirt, ball peg to get it out of the way, and they do move all the way. So now we can look at the hips. So we have a standard ball socket for the hip. We can get his leg all the way up, no problem at all, especially if we move the knee out of the way, move the skirt out of the way. No problem with that in any way. Moving the leg to the side, it does actually hit the lower part of the torso there, so you won't be able to get him in the full splits, even if the skirt could go up higher, so I guess it's not really the skirt's fault after all. And then we do have a thigh swivel. So really, any articulation you would want in the hip, you've pretty much got it. It's nice and stiff, but not too stiff. You don't hear any squeaking typically, so there's no shredding going on, so that's pretty nice. Now onto the knee, we have a hinge up here in the upper part of the knee, which gives them about 90 degrees, but then we do also have this lower hinge, which you can't really use both at the same time unless you do the bottom one first. So let's look at that real quick. If you bring the leg backward on the top joint first, the back of the calf is going to hit the thigh. You can't really do much else. But if you use the bottom joint first, which actually has this really nice mechanic in here, as you watch carefully as you do that, it collapses on itself, and then you can use the top joint as well, and you can get the leg much farther back. It does get kind of cumbersome and blocky looking, but it's not so bad, especially once you get him in a pose. I think a lot of people are going to really appreciate the way this works. I do personally appreciate that. I love that extra little mechanic in there for having the knee articulation. I think that's very cool. Now down to the lower part of the leg, we have this flap back here that just opens up a little bit to reveal that thruster. You can leave that folded down or open it up, that's up to you. It does reveal a little extra gold, so I kind of recommend that. We have a flap here for the ankle armor, and then the outside pieces, neither of mine move too much, so I'm thinking they weren't really intended to move. The inside piece here has pretty much full range of motion, so I'm guessing that is just to allow for some better articulation. So as you can see inside here, we have the ankle rocker, which gives them a pretty good range of motion. If you bring the foot forward and then rock it sideways, you can get almost a 90-degree ankle rocker out of that, so that's pretty nice. That's that swivel right in there. Hopefully you can see that. The top part of the ankle, it appears to be a ball peg. I don't want to pull on it, but it looks to me like it's a ball peg inside that, where's my knife? It looks like there's a ball peg inside this piece right here. So I'm thinking that's what it is. Again, I'm not going to pull it out, but it is effectively the same thing as a ball peg. And then the toe is on a hinge. It can go all the way down. Unfortunately, it can't go too far forward, even though we have this flap right here. The front part of the foot is pretty limited in its range of motion. So that's a little disappointing. You don't want to tuck that in there. You want that on the outside. So yeah, you can't bring the toe as far forward as I would have liked. It's a little disappointing, but it's not horrible. I think we can live with it. Okay, so that covers it for the articulation, the basics of the figure itself. And now you hear some squeaking on the leg. A little bit here and there. Not too bad. The Banshee here is actually one of the larger of the robot Damashii figures. There are a few that might be a little bit bigger, but this guy is actually quite tall. He stands, his knees are a little bit bent right now, but he stands roughly 6 inches tall. He's a little bit taller once you straighten out the legs. And just for some comparative purposes, this is the Extreme Gundam, which you guys have seen me talk about a couple times now. And that's the Banshee. He doesn't have his backpack on or anything, so he's a little slim right now, but he stands almost a whole head taller. And actually, let's straighten out the legs and give you a more accurate look at how tall he actually is, because he's quite tall. So I'll stand them both up. Standing them up won't work, so I'll just put him like this. Yeah, he's almost a whole head taller, so that's a pretty good size on this guy. I definitely like that he's got some size to him. So there's the height. Okay, so that's what it looks like right out of the package. We do have a backpack for him, which of course is very well done. Let's see if I can get it out. Always use a knife or something that you can get into the package with. It makes it much easier. So as you can see, the backpack is really well detailed. The composition is great. The design is great. If you're wondering what these things are, that's for beam sabers. Those are for beam sabers. We'll get to that in a second. You can fold them away if you're not going to use them. They do swivel nicely. And then it's got the little snapping mechanism there. So that just goes right into his back. Really straightforward, just like that. So now he looks even cooler. We've already addressed a little bit of the lack of bulk in the upper body by adding the backpack. That looks really nice, and we're going to add even more in just a second. So let's talk about the beam saber ports that I just pointed out. They are for the handles of the beam sabers, and if you guys have watched my other Gundam Robot Damashii reviews, you know I prefer Gundam designs that have beam sabers sticking out of the back like that. So how this works is these are just the handles for the beam sabers, and they peg over those little pegs. You be really careful though, these are minuscule. Here's my ruler. We'll go metric for this one. Not much more than 1 millimeter in thickness, and in length about 2 millimeters. So very tiny peg. Spend some time using some caution when pegging these on, and don't knock the V-fins off of your figure either. This is a pretty tricky task. In fact, what you'll probably want to do is give it a little spin as you're doing it to reduce the lateral force, and that'll help you to get that on. And I'll do it on this side too. It's actually easier to put it on before you put the backpack on the figure, but I've done this, so I think I'll be able to get it on well enough. That'll do. So that gives him the handles back there. Let me put the V-fin back on though, because he just looks pretty bad like that. And I think I can get it on a little faster this time, hopefully. There we go. So as you can see, that just gives him even a little bit more space, a little more volume. He takes up a little more space with those on and looks pretty cool. But we're not done yet. So we have two different versions of the claw. I know it's not actually called the claw, but I don't remember if it's called, is it the VN? I don't remember. So either way, we have the claw that goes on this hand. That's what this Gundam is known for, having this big claw. Now, you're probably never going to use this because he's already in the fully expanded mode, so I don't see why you would ever use this closed version, but you can do it. And what you'll see here is a little tab, and it's on the front and on the back, a tab hole, and then this has a tab on either side right up here. So that just slides over the hand and tabs in. Takes a little wiggling here and there, but you can get it on. Trust me, they made it to fit. And then there you go, it just tabs in place like that. So he's got the closed hand right there, and bonus points for them allowing you to use this at the same time. That does not get in the way, and I'll show you that in a second. So we have this on this side, and we also have the good version, which I suspect is what everybody will be using. be careful taking this on and off because these tabs are fairly small. Come on off of there. And it fits very snugly. Come off. Yeah, there we go. Coming off now. I guess I can't do it with that. Alright, so we can take that off. The hand came off with it, no big deal. And now we have the part that everybody likes, which is the open claw, which looks great. It's not just a molded hunk of plastic like the other one. This one has everything going for it. So let's take a look at what we actually have here. We have a ball peg back here, which lets the whole side articulate independently from the other side, so it can go up and down. It does open up a little bit this way. Not so much though. There actually is a bigger version of this, I think, with the unicorn, or the what's it called? Jeez, oh man, it's been a while. The whatever the version of this guy is before he opens up. He actually came with one of these that's actually a little bit bigger and nicer, but this one is the one I wanted anyway. Anyway, it's got a hinge right there, and this one has a hinge, 2 hinges, right there and right there. So that's what that looks like, and if you'll notice, if you're not familiar with this character already, it's the same thing, just completely opened up, or closed up, I guess is the better term. So let's put that on his hand. It goes on the exact same way. Just get that on over there without breaking anything, hopefully. And as you can see, it just looks great. Do I have it on upside down? I don't think I do. So there it is. That is just awesome. That adds a lot of bulk to him on that side. And now we can talk about this, which is for the beam saber. I'm going to start with it on this side though, so I can show you. He comes with 2 fully ignited beam sabers that are not meant to come apart. I mean, they're meant to come apart in the physical sense, but you really have no need to, because these are the ones meant for the forearms, and you don't need to take the you don't need to use these ones for this. So there's really no reason to, other than you can. So they're meant to physically do it, but there's no purpose for it. So those just snap on there. If you want to have his beam sabers go on his forearms like that, you certainly can. It is kind of a long beam saber. I personally don't mind. I think the bright translucent pink with the white frosting at the end contrasts very nicely with the rest of the figure. So I really like that. And we do get 2 of those. If I can get it out, we'll just use this one to pull it out. And then you can, as I said on this side, still use the beam saber even if you're going to use the claw. So you can see there that it just goes right in between, and it's still fully usable. I know this isn't probably the most practical use right here, but maybe if you use the closed one and that, you can make it look pretty cool, though I don't believe it's very accurate. So it can be done though. So let's go ahead and pop that off. And of course he does have hands to hold that. We'll talk about the hands in a little bit, but that's not a super interesting part, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. So that's the left hand. Let's look at the right hand. We've got the other weapon, which I can't remember, is it the VN? Or is that the VN and this is the VS? I don't remember. Either way, this is the railgun. It has a hinge up here so it can fold up, and it also has the opening ability, which makes it look really awesome. More gold, more of that awesome gold popping through. This attaches to this side just like the other side had the claw. So you're going to want to tuck the hand into that kind of pocket and then slide the rest of it on over. And come on. It takes a little finagling sometimes, but it will go on. So there we have it. So there's the railgun. If you want to have him using it, no problem at all. I personally don't see why you would ever fold these up. I don't believe he should have them folded up in this mode, and it just looks not as cool, so why bother? And it doesn't look as imposing. So you can close that up if you want to and fold it up, and you still have full use of the hand. But in this mode, the only way to use the beam saber, if you really wanted to, which is still probably not the best idea, is to open this up completely, and then you can use this. It's not going to stick out very well though, so I wouldn't really recommend that. But technically, you can still do that. It's up to you. It's just probably a pretty bad idea. Alright, now you might think, wow, he's got a lot of cool stuff, but we're not done yet. That goes to show though how much girth he does get by adding the weapons. That's pretty awesome. Those are the armed weapons. Is that what it's called? It's been a while, guys. I'm losing my mind here. I can't really remember some of the specific names. I apologize for that, but I'll try to remember as much as I can as we go. And now we have one more cool gold and blue thing before we have some less cool but still awesome other accessories. So we have the shield, and in this mode you're never really going to have the shield closed up like this. You're going to have it opened up like this and like this, and that's the cool version, but it's not the totally cool version. The totally cool version looks like that, and that's how you would see that on him in this mode. And how you use this is either with this piece here, and that pegs in like that, or like that. It's up to you, however you want to use it. So you have some versatility there. Or with this piece here, which is the exact same thing, but it's a little bit bigger. And the reason we have this is so that you can use the shield on top of the addition parts. So if you want to use them with the claw or with the railgun, actually it looks like you can't use it with the railgun. So if you want to use it with the claw, you use the big one. If you want to use it without the claw, which is what we're going to do, pop the claw off. You see how it has the same ports there. We can put this on here. It goes on the same two little ports that the claw goes on, and then this pegs onto here. So now he's got the shield, which is, you can swivel it. It's a little stiff, but you can do it, and then you just pop these back out if you fold them up. So that's pretty nice. However you want to pose them with that, you can. And if you're going to use the shield, I recommend you go ahead and use the railgun, which we already have on him right here. But if you don't want to use the railgun, we do have more options. Like I said, this is going to be a long review. There's lots of stuff to cover with this guy, and I am happy to do it. We're in the home stretch though, so let's take the railgun off without breaking it again. Be very careful. Maybe give it a little pry at the top as you're doing it. It's not probably the best design, I think, for attaching that. This just seems awfully brittle, so be careful. Alright, so we've got the shield on this side, which I guess I should point out before we go on too much further. You can also fold this piece down like that, and that pegs in up here. So you can do that, and if you want to give him a little more gold, which I recommend, we can fold these out. Now I should point out also that there is another version of this guy coming out. Is that the Norn version? I don't remember anymore what the other one is, but the new one that's coming out, it does have, I think, the fully expanding shield. It doesn't come with the claw though, so you would have to have that other claw version that I talked about to give him that. So it's just something to note. That's why I got this guy, this version of him. I wanted the this release with the claw. So let's put the shield on him there, and let's talk about the other accessories. Fold these guys out. The more gold showing, the better, if you ask me. Come on. There we go. Alright, so now we have a beam magnum and a bazooka. So let's get those out. We'll look at the magnum first. Lots of contrast. Well, not lots, but there is some contrast throughout this. We have the ammo clip right in there that's painted well. It looks exactly like the two additional ones that we get. So that's pretty awesome. I love the fact that we have the spare ammo clips. I'll show you what those are for in a minute. This can also tab into his back. It might actually tab into a couple other places too, but for the sake of the review, it at least can tab into his back right where the shield did. We do have this alternate handle, the side handle, which is famous among beam magnums. We have the green, the metallic green in there. So lots of nice detail, and he can hold it just fine because you can open up the handle, slide his hand over the grip, close it back up. Pretty awesome. Looks really good. And now I can show you what these can do. These are the alternate magazines or ammo clips, and they can just peg in right back here. And you can do it either way, so you can curl it out or curl it in or curl it out. They have tabs on either side. I'm not going to push it in all the way just because I don't want to, but you can do it either way. It's up to you, whichever you think looks better. I don't personally remember which way is the official way, and I believe, if I am not mistaken, you can actually put the magnum in that tab as well. Let's see. Yes, so you can do that. If you want to store the Magnum on his hip like that, you can do it. So that's pretty cool. Will it also fit in one of these? I don't think so. It might. It does. I don't think I would recommend that though. Doesn't seem very accurate, and it definitely does fit back here. So that's cool. But wait, there's more. Now we have to look at the Bazooka, which is a big son of a gun. This thing is humongous. It does come apart. I probably wouldn't recommend ever bothering with that because it is just so massive. It should be experienced in all of its glory. I would have appreciated a little bit something there, or maybe a little more hollow, so it didn't just look like a hunk of plastic, but no big deal. It's got the ammo clip back here, which isn't too impressive looking, but it is there. It's got the pinkish red up here where the other one had green, and it has the handle right here. And there we go. So you can put his hand on this and then close it up. And it does have the hinge ability so that if you want to fit it over his shoulder, you can do that, which is nice because also the fact that this is angled, it helps him get it up over his shoulder where a lot of other Gundams have had problems with that. So you can easily, I'm not going to bother doing it, I'll just demonstrate kind of how it would look. You can easily set that over his shoulder for him to use with that angled handle, and hopefully that's pretty good demonstration. You don't need me to actually do it, so that's pretty cool. And just like the ammo clips for the Magnum, we also have an extra batch of bullets for the Bazooka, and those tab in just like the other ones did. So there's that. And now lastly, well, not quite lastly, we have one last little tiny thing to talk about once I'm done talking about the hands. So let's look at the hands we have. There goes the crown, or the V-fin. Okay, so he came with 2 fist hands, right? 2 fist hands, and now we also have 2 of these dynamic awesome hands, which are just for him looking sweet. And they all have the silvery gunmetal, not silver, the dark gray gunmetal fingers with blue hand covers. I can't think of what that would be called offhand, no pun intended. So we have a beam saber hand for the right side. We have a trigger finger hand for the left side, and I would suspect the other ones are a beam saber hand for the left side and a trigger finger hand for the right side. So either hand can do either thing, and he is fully loaded with anything you may desire. So let's just put them together really quickly. That snapped on very easily that time, which was very convenient. So he's got the shield and the railgun. Nice combo for a quick pose. I don't know, something like that. We're already over the 20-minute mark, so why not take the time to pose him quickly, right? Okay. So just a quick, real quick, sloppy pose with the railgun and the shield, something like that. And if you want to put him on a stage 4, stage 5, or trident stand, he does have one of those clippy thingies that just disappeared amongst all of this awesomeness. I don't know where it went. Oh, it's still in the tray. So he has one of these, which you should be familiar with if you've ever done anything with the model kits or the robot Damashii. That will just snap on over his crotch like this. And then you can, I'm sorry, it slides on over that groove right there. There we go. There's the snap sound you're looking for. And no, I wouldn't put that there unless you're going to put the stand on him, because otherwise it just looks like a tail or something like that. But yeah, the stage 4, stage 5 stands will fit in there just fine. The trident will work, and I think you'd be pretty good to put him in a nice dynamic air pose, something like that. So there it is, guys. There is the robot Damashii Banshee. This is the version I recommend just because he comes with the accessories I prefer. There is the other version. I don't believe it's out yet, so you can check that out too. They both should be available at Big Bad Toy Store. I believe this guy is running low on stock though, so you may want to scoop him up quickly if you want one. Otherwise, grab the newer version. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.